Welcome to the Indie Pub, a laid-back interview show dedicated to the world of self and indie publishing. I'm your host, Jay Rushing, author of the self-published fantasy noir novel Radio, and a beverage buff with a passion for deep dives and good times. Each episode, a guest will step into the pub with a publishing-related topic and a favorite drink for us to explore and enjoy. Whether you want to sharpen your craft, snag a new cocktail recipe, or just have a laugh, there's always a seat and a full glass waiting for you at the Indie Pub. Welcome to the Indie Pub. Today's guest is Travis M. Riddle. He's the author of many books, including Spittin' Song, Flesh Eater, The Narrows, and On Lavender Tides. He's got some fantastic book covers, and he's here to discuss what it's like to work with cover artists as a self-published author. But before we dive in, tell us a bit about what we're drinking here in the pub today.
Today, by the way, thank you for such a nice intro.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the covers too. I wish I could take credit for them. But today we are drinking bubble tea, aka milk tea, boba tea. There's a lot of different things to call it. And I saved my punch for you for the show, because I think one of the most satisfying parts of getting it is tearing this big meaty straw into the top. So here we go.
Oh yeah, there you go.
There we go.
Well done.
And I'm drinking taro milk tea specifically.
And I got the same.
Perfect. We are aligned.
This will be great. We'll be able to get into the finer nuances of it all. And I'm sure I'll mention this again later, but I'm super excited because every episode we always talk about smell and taste because they're always overlooked in writing. But we get to talk about texture with this drink too, and that's another super overlooked sense.
Yeah, what's better than a drink you can chew?
Exactly. All right, so tell us a bit about yourself and your work.
About myself, I don't know. I guess I'm a writer from Austin, Texas. And my work, I don't know. I really like to gravitate toward weird things. I like I really think that in the fantasy genre, we don't really appreciate the truly fantastical stuff as much as we could, because there's obviously so many books are about people doing things. And I recognize now it's stupid to say since my new series is about people doing things, but I really like non-human sort of stuff, and I've tried to incorporate a lot of that into my work just to really kind of embrace that we can do anything and make things as weird as we want. So that's kind of what I try to do with my writing. I try to get weird.
All right, so let's start off with some shout outs. So you have some great covers just across your catalog. So which artists do you work with?
So for Wondrous, the thing is with all my covers is that even if I worked with a really great artist before, a lot of my books at the start were standalone things. And so what I really wanted to go for was to even more give them a sense of being very distinct works and distinct worlds, is that I worked with different artists for every book.
Gotcha.
Really only working with the same artist if it was part of a series or in the same world. So for Wondrous, I worked with a guy named Aaron Griffin for the Uslian Tales books, which are Balam Spring and Spittin' Song. I worked with a guy named Amir Zand, whose work I've seen popping up more and more throughout the years, and I think he's done work for some media things. I think he did a Mortal Techniques art book or something like that. Not Mortal Techniques, that's the Rob Hayes thing. What am I thinking of? The thing with the big city on on wheels or something.
Oh,
Mortal Instruments, maybe something like that.
Maybe, yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about, but I can't think of the title either.
Mortal Engines, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but the movie city story.
Yeah. He did some concept art for that. And then for the Narrows, I worked with a guy named Luke Valentine. And then for the Houndstooth series, see, I told you there's so many artists. For Houndstooth, I worked with a design company called Deranged Doctor Design, and they did all the typography and all the design like art stuff. And now for this new series with On Lavender Tides, I'm working with Baj Singh. I hope I'm not mispronouncing his name. And then Deranged Doctor is like doing the like typography and design elements for it while he does the illustrations.
Okay, so what was your process like when it came to finding these cover artists for your book?
Really, it's been the same for all of them. And what I start with is I go to ArtStation. Have you ever browsed through there? It's really great. You should check it out next time you need any art, or if you just want to look at some good pictures. It's a great place for pictures. But there's like thousands of artists on there, and you can kind of like you can filter, like you don't even have to really search for anything in particular, and you can just kind of filter whether you want like 2D art or 3D art, and from there if you want it like hand illustrated or digitally illustrated. And then from there you can do like a genre of thing. Like, do you want animals? Do you want landscapes? Do you want like video game stuff? Do you want action? You can really narrow it to like exactly what you want. And so I would go on there and I would always like have like a sort of vision of what I want the artwork to be. And so then I would just apply those filters based on kind of the style that I was going for, and then just browse through all the artists on there that pop up, see who's open for commissions, look at some more of their like samples, see if like I can envision the scene that I'm thinking of in their style. And yeah, just kind of, I spend like hours and hours just going through all those results and then like making a list of artists that I want to contact and their like email addresses and stuff. And then I kind of just put a bunch of feelers out at once just in case, like, I mean, like every 10 people you email, like probably like 5 are not going to respond to you. So, and then the others like might be out of your price range or something. So I just contact a bunch of people, kind of like explain to them the idea I had in mind, and see if that's something that they think that they like could illustrate, and then find out like what their rates are and their availability and stuff like that.
I see. So ArtStation then is kind of just a platform for finding the artist, and then all of the actual business dealings happen directly with the artist. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. ArtStation, to me, I mean, I'm not an artist, so I might be misspeaking, but it seems to me just a place for like artists to basically like put their portfolios up.
Gotcha.
And so it has like a bunch of their work, and then like their about page like has like companies they've worked for, whether they're open to like freelance stuff or contract work, or if they're only looking for like studio jobs or something like that. And then it has like their email addresses and websites and stuff like that, and like programs that they're proficient in and things like that. So it's really like a portfolio resume thing all in one, it seems like.
Okay, so when the artists who do write back to you write back, and you've got a few to choose from, what is it that helps convince you, do that kind of final decision making on which one you're going to go with? What are the things that really stand out for you as an author?
To be perfectly honest, the price is a big component. Because realistically, at this point, like I'm not really emailing any artists that I think would like do a bad job at what I'm thinking of. And so at this point, sometimes it does come down to like if their rate is cheaper than this other person, then that's kind of what I have to go with, because I don't have like a huge budget for stuff like this.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a big part of it. And other times it's even kind of just like the vibe of like the email exchange. If they seem like a like cool kind of casual person to work with. Yeah, those are really like big things after I get past the stage of like finding artists who I think do good work, you know. I actually in this last, when I was doing my research for On Lavender Tides, I actually did find a bunch of people and I contacted them. Only like 2 replied. or actually, I had 3 of them replied. 2 of them were incredibly expensive. Like, they did great work, but it was just not something that I could afford. And then this last guy was like, yeah, that sounds good. He had a price that I could afford. And then I explained everything to him. He was like, yeah, that sounds good. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And then like 2 weeks passed and I didn't hear anything from him. And then I emailed him again. I was like, hey, just wanted to see if like you were starting anything because you said you would at this point. I just want to see what's up. And another 2 weeks passed and I didn't hear anything. Jeez. And so at this point I was like, I need to find someone because like I'm like running out of time now. And so I went back to square one and started searching for more new people because all the other people I had contacted before either were too expensive or didn't respond to me. Mm-hmm. And that's when I found Baj, who I ended up going with, is at this point. And so I emailed the original guy and I was like, hey, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if you'll even read this, but I'm going with someone else because you haven't responded in over a month. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was kind of a blessing in disguise that I ended up finding this really great illustrator whose work honestly fits the project better than the original guys did. And he's like just a really cool guy to like chat with and work with. So I'm glad that original guy ghosted me.
Yeah. Leveled up that way.
Yeah.
So speaking of these email exchanges, let's talk a little bit about what a successful commissioning process would be like with one of these artists. So what does that email conversation look like for you?
So straight from my first email to them, like when I'm making my introductions, I always feel like it's important at that point to like lay out exactly what I have in mind for the cover. Because I mean, I don't know, everyone's different. And even if they have work that's like kind of similar to what I'm thinking of, they might read my description and think like, I can't do that. Because that happens to me with my own type of work. Like there's just stuff like I don't know how to do this, and I don't want to do this. So I just want to like make it very clear up front. Like this is what I'm looking for. Do you think you can do this? If not, that's fine. I'll look for someone else. So yeah, I kind of lay that out in as much detail as I think is reasonable for an introduction email. And I do say like, this is generally the idea. I can give you more details if you think this sounds good. And then I like ask what their rates are, what their availability is. Cause I mean, I'm sure as you know, as like indie authors, we're setting our own deadlines, but we do have like deadlines that we're trying to hit. So
for sure. Once those wheels get in motion, it's hard to stop them.
Yeah. So like if someone's not available to start for like another 9 months, then they're probably not who I'm going to go with. And so I want to know that right from the start so I can keep looking. So yeah, basically you just explain who I am, what this project is really about, what I'm looking for in a cover. And then I ask them for those details. And then, yeah, if it sounds good, we kind of proceed from there, and I explain things in even more detail, maybe like even copy and paste like specific descriptions from the book or anything, if it's like supposed to be a specific scene or if a character needs to look a specific way on the cover. Kind of describe like what the tone of the project is. You know, just things like that, just really giving them as much detail as possible so that they can kind of then take it from there and get started.
All right, let's jump into our drink here.
Okay.
Our wonderful bubble / boba / milk tea.
It's got a great color, huh?
It does, yeah. Just like that almost blue. Mm-hmm. All right, so like I said before, every episode we talk smell and taste because those details get overlooked in writing all the time. And today we are also going to talk about texture, and I'm super excited for this one. So when you take a nice pull on the giant straw for this bubble tea, what are you experiencing? What are those tastes and those smells, and especially the textures that are happening for you?
I want to say first off that I didn't even realize this before, but purple drink on Lavender Tides.
Hey, there you go.
Hey, look at that. All right, let me see. Let me get the full experience here real quick. Okay. So it's like super sweet. The thing, I don't know if your place did this, but a lot of boba places, they ask you like what you want your sweetness level to be.
Mm.
Did yours ask you about
no,
sweetness level?
I just ordered and they handed it to me. So
wow, a lot of places you can get like 100% sweetness, 75%, 50%, 25%. But I'm a little sweet boy, so I always go. I just say, give me how it comes. I want 100%. And I also get no ice because I don't want it obstructing my bobas down there.
You're a boba purist.
Yeah. I mean, it's like super sweet. It's like it's taro flavored, which always is kind of like to me it tastes kind of very like vanilla, but with like a little bit of earthiness to it, maybe.
Yeah.
Like an earthy vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
And it's super creamy because it's milk tea. It's not like thick, but it's like got that creaminess to it.
There's a good viscosity going on.
Right, yeah. And then we got the bobas in there, the little tapioca balls. So when you're like sucking up through that big straw, you get that nice, cool, sweet drink, and then all of a sudden there's like 6 balls shooting into your mouth. And then you just get to chew those bad boys. They're like very soft but chewy.
Mm-hmm.
And they're pretty sweet also. But I don't even know. Like, how would you describe the flavor of those? I don't even know. I don't understand it, but I like it.
Yeah, I mean, all throughout my life growing up, if I had the little pudding cups, I'd always go for the tapioca one. I really love that, and both the texture and the flavor. These, it's like they're
like slimy kind of, but like in a good way.
Yeah, I really like chewing on them because the outside is almost mush, not quite, like it's barely held together, and then by the time you bite to the center, it's almost too hard. So it's kind of like you get the full range of springiness, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, flavor wise, I guess I don't know. It definitely has one, but I can't.
It's very like unique. Like I don't know if I've had anything like it before. And mine, I also get, I don't know if you can see, I get like these, they just call it flan pudding, but it's like a cube of flan, I guess.
Oh.
And which you would think would not be conducive to like sucking up through a straw, but that is like so soft that like just pressing your straw into it, it completely tears through it. And so you can just suck the little chunks of that right up too.
Flan's one of my favorite desserts. When I lived in France, so there's like Mexican flan, right, with the caramely syrup over the top and all of that. But French flan it's baked into a pie crust. And it's a little bit firmer, so you can eat it like a pizza slice.
That's cool. I like that.
Amazing. It's just walking around. It's kind of ridiculous walking around this big, like, huge chunk of dessert and just eating it like pizza, but it's amazing.
I like that. So like, I think you said you had not tried this before.
I've had bubble teas maybe 2 or 3 times in my life, but each time I have it, it's always years apart. So I don't have a lot of built up experience with them.
Okay. If it was your first time, I was going to wonder like what your experience was like having it for the first time, but
yeah, I mean, it's always, it happens so infrequently that I get it. It is always kind of a refreshed shock a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a technique that I would assume someone would develop for the liquid to tapioca ball ratio as you're sucking it up the straw. I find that I am either going way too slow or way too fast.
Well, yeah, so I always end up with a bunch at the bottom of the cup that I just kind of have to suck up dry, I guess you could say. But hey, it's still fun.
I don't know about yours, but mine has almost like a, and I'm assuming this is coming from the taro, but it's almost like a baked good quality. Like not cookies and not bread and not graham cracker. Actually, maybe a little bit graham cracker. Now that I think of it, just a touch. I don't know. There's some sort of carby flavor going on, which makes sense. But
yeah, I guess so. I didn't really think about that actually. That does make sense. It's good. I feel like you don't really get taro as a flavor in a lot of things. Generally, just like, I guess like Asian like bakery sort of stuff, and this. But I love it. I think it's so good.
Yeah, I think that the main times I've had taro was like the once or twice I've been to Hawaii. I think they use it quite a bit there, but.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's jump back into our topic. And I want to talk about a tricky question here.
Okay.
Artistic direction when it comes to the covers. So when you're working with a cover artist, how much input into the design of the cover do you have as the author? And how much artistic and or design freedom do the artists require or request?
So I guess with all of with everyone that I've worked with, I think it's been kind of like 50-50. And the way I approach it is that, like, I always have an idea in my head of like what I want the cover to be. Like, I know if it's like a certain, it's usually like a scene that I have in my mind. And so the way I do it is that I explain everything to the artist, and then I tell them, like, sometimes there are details, like, just from the book, like continuity things. Like, I tell them, like, this person's hair needs to be this color, and like this thing needs to be this color or this shape or whatever. But I say, like, besides that, like, you're the artist, I'm not. Like, you can just do what you think like looks good as far as like colors or like scene composition or really anything. Like, as long as you get these few details matching what they are in the book, like, you can do whatever you want. And sometimes there have been times where, like, I then get something back from the artist and I see it, and when I see like some direction that they've gone, I do think like, okay, this like isn't really like what I think this should be. And so I'll tell them, like, this one part I think should be more kind of like this. And then they've always just been like, okay, yeah, sounds good. And then they go fix it.
Nice.
But yeah, so generally, like, aside from the few details that I need, I'm pretty like hands off with it. And I trust that whatever they're going to give me is going to look great, which has always been the case. Like, I think really only like one time that I can think of, I have had to do that, where I've said, like, this doesn't feel right. We need to change this.
And so let's talk a little bit about that process, kind of the drafting process of the cover. How much back and forth is there? Is it kind of a, one or two rounds? Is it open-ended depending on what you need? What does it vary artist to artist quite a bit? What's been your experience there?
Yeah, as I've mentioned, I've worked with a ton of different artists, and it does vary. And again, since I kind of want to be like hands off and let them do their thing, that's another thing I mentioned in the emails, is that I'm like, just let me know like what your process is. Like, I'm down for whatever your creative process is. And so, like, with like the Usli and Tales covers, like the first drafts that I would get from Amir were like really detailed and like fairly close to like what ends up being the final cover. And with him, I really didn't even like go through any edits. He just kind of would like send me drafts and be like, how's this look? And I'm like, looks great. Keep going. Whereas like with the cover for the Narrows, that one was kind of crazy because I like contacted the artist on like a Monday. On like Tuesday, we agreed to work together. And then like Thursday, maybe, I think he sent the first thing he sent me was like an almost like finished piece.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, this looks great. And then literally on Friday, like 4 days later, like it was done. Like it was signed off. Like we're finished.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there was really like not much back and forth with him. He kind of, the idea that I had for it was kind of like based on a set of art pieces that he had done that I saw on his art station. So I was like, I kind of like want just this style in this pose and this color. And so like he knew exactly what to do with that.
Yeah.
And then like with Baj for this latest series has actually been the most like detailed back and forth that I've done with any of the artists. I actually just a week or two ago put up like a whole process post on my Patreon going through it and like showing the different like images that he sent back and forth.
Oh, nice.
But with him, what we kind of did was I explained the scene to him, and then what he did was he sent back like 6 small black and white thumbnails based on that idea, but just like with different like framing, like different angles, like low angles or high angles, different like character positions, stuff like that. Basically just like 6 different like variations on the same idea. And he would have like his comments below saying like why he did things a certain way in this one, and like he would say like, this is my favorite, I think maybe this one would be best, something like that. And so from there I chose one of those 6 thumbnails, and then from there what he did was he then did a few thumbnails in color, basically taking that composition and just doing like different color schemes for it, and asking me like which of these do you like best? Like, what do you think pops the most? What fits the tone the best? What stands out to you? And then I would choose that one. And then from there, he would start on like the final piece based on that composition and that color scheme. And we would go back and forth a lot. He would send several drafts, putting in like more and more details. And then finally, like once I signed off on all the like major stuff, that's when he would then go do like his final polish, just like cleaning things up a bit, adding like some texture to different things, putting in little details like birds flying or something, or like adding moss to a rock, stuff like that. And that's basically the process with him. So those ones were a lot more involved, but it was like really fun being able to like see more of like his like sketching process and being able to be a lot more involved with like the specific picking of like how things are framed, like what colors are used where, stuff like that. And yeah, I've done 2 covers with him now. He's already done the cover for book 2.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I'll show it to you after this. It's like really
nice.
Dope. It's really crazy.
Behind the scenes access.
Yes. And so yeah, probably sometime in the next like month or 2, I'm gonna schedule with him to work on book 3. Nice. But yeah, he's been really great, and it's been really cool like seeing everything from start to finish. It was really fun with like Luke just being like the first thing I get sent is like almost a final product. That was cool in its own way, but I do like being able to like see every step of the way with this new series.
And now for each cover and with each artist, has it pretty much been a nice, smooth, positive thing, or have there been some times when it's been stressful? I mean, I guess the guy ghosting you, but
yeah, that was stressful. But yeah, really everyone I've worked with, it's been really positive. Yeah, I've genuinely had no bad experiences. Like the worst thing that has happened is with like the Dirt King cover. I just had to say like this piece should be a different color. Oh, like that. That's like as stressful as it has gotten, really. Gotcha.
All right, so then let's talk about the back cover. So I'm assuming you handle the copy.
Right.
But are the cover artists handling, I'm assuming each cover artist is handling front, back, and spine?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of varied again there.
Okay.
So some people, like Amir with the Uslian Tales books, he said right off the bat, like, oh, I also do like typography and stuff if you want me to do that. And I hadn't really thought about like who I was going to get to do that or if I was going to do it. So I was like, yeah, sure, go ahead. So he did it on those. With Wondrous, it was my first book and I was just starting out. And I hadn't really thought about that aspect of it. And so like the illustrator did the illustration and sent it to me. And then I was kind of like, well, I don't have any words or anything on this. And then I asked him, like, how much would it be to like get this stuff added? And it was really expensive, and I'd already paid a lot for the art. And since it was my first book, I was like, I don't know if I can put more into this. And so I did all the design stuff for that book. And with the Narrows, it was kind of like both. Like he like made all the elements and then I kind of like put it all together in Photoshop to get it finalized. And then working with Deranged Doctor for the Houndstooth stuff, I don't know, it was like a really eye-opening experience as far as like what like sort of design elements could be used on stuff like this, because that's like their main thing, I guess. Like they do like they will make like covers for authors, but they also will take like illustrations and then like just do the design part of it. But for Houndstooth, they did everything, and I don't know, I really love their like style of like typography and the different like design ornaments and stuff that they put on things. And working with them was like a super positive experience because they respond quickly to emails. Their turnaround on stuff is pretty fast because they're like a whole company with like a ton of like employees and stuff working on these different projects. So it's very organized, it's very fast. And they're also really receptive to like any changes you want. So like everything they did on Flesh Eater I thought was like great. Like one of the letters and like the R in Eater like looked weird or something, or maybe it was the E, I don't remember. It looked like a different letter and it looked confusing. And so I told them like, can you just like change this? Like an hour later it was changed and it looked great. Nice. And yeah, there was like a ton of different like ornaments and stuff, like on the spine, on the front, on the back. There's like a whole like border around the like back cover copy that I thought looked so dope. And then like for book 2, when they were doing it, they put that same ornament on there, but like with the book 2 colors. And I was kind of like, well, would it be possible to like do a different border to like differentiate between the books? And then like, again, like an hour later, like it was done and it looked beautiful.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So it looked great. It looked better than anything I could have ever done or did do with Wondrous. And it was like so easy, and they're like so professional about it. And like I don't have any worries about like spine stuff, like not aligning between books, because I trust that they're gonna measure that stuff. Whereas for someone as stupid as me, it could get very confusing and I wouldn't feel confident about what I'm doing.
Yeah. It's funny that you bring up borders, because I'm lucky and my wife is a graphic designer. So for my cover,
Beautiful.
I just got to keep it in the family. But I remember when we were starting to first think of the designs, she was, even being a professional designer, she was a bit apprehensive about borders because you can't always trust how they'll print. So that's actually a really big deal that company was not only willing to do borders like that for the printing, but also all willing to and able to make those changes so quickly. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. And what's also great about it is that, like, as I'm sure you know, like the size of the cover is based on like the amount of pages that the book is, and that like changes the spine width. And like KDP has like calculators and stuff to figure that out, but it only really it like rounds kind of like rounds to the nearest whatever, which always makes me nervous because it seems like not good for them to do that. But like this is a professional company that like literally specializes in like self-published authors covers, and like they mentioned like they talk on their website about like knowing the KDP specifications and like the Ingram specifications and everything.
Yeah.
So again, I felt really confident handing everything over to them and just being like, here's the stuff, this is the page count, and then I know like whatever they send back is going to be exactly the size that it needs to be without me having to worry about it. And so that's why when it came to doing the new series, like I found the illustrator I wanted, but then I also knew like I kind of just want to take an illustration and hand it to them, to Deranged Doctor again, and like let them do all the design stuff, because I really loved what they did with the Houndstooth series. And yeah, it was a really smooth, great process doing that with them also.
Nice. Well, let's talk a little bit then about the end of the process. How does the payment tend to work? I mean, I'm assuming it's a little bit different with the company versus individual artists. But also, if you're willing to give kind of just a rough ballpark estimate for the listeners, what they can expect to be paying for a cover from artists or from this company or whatever. Doesn't have to be your exact numbers, but just kind of a rough ballpark estimate.
I guess the answer to both those things, and I guess the running theme of this whole thing is that it just varies by artist. Like some people I've just paid like through a PayPal invoice. Some people have asked like to just do like a straight bank transfer so they can avoid PayPal fees. Some people I've literally just paid on Venmo. And the cost can vary a lot also. Like the price for Wondrous, straight up, like my first book, so like, I mean, I know like as a reader, like the cover art is like so important, because like if something just has like a lame, like unprofessional looking cover, like I'm probably not even gonna like read the synopsis, because I'm gonna think like there's not a lot of work put into this.
Yeah.
So like I knew like I needed like a professional looking nice cover. And being a naive, stupid, like first time author, I also thought that was gonna help me skate by, even though I had like no readership or fan base or anything. I thought it was not going to be lost in the wave of books because it had such a nice cover. So I did drop like $1,000 on the cover, which is money at this point I have just accepted like I'm never going to make back on that book. Like that book was a loss, and that's fine. But since then I've been a lot more diligent, and kind of like I said, like an artist rate is like a super important thing. And like if it's cheaper than another artist, that's an attractive thing to me, because I mean, I do this because I like it, but also like I don't like want to lose money on each book. For sure. Like I want to make the money back, and then preferably like a profit on it also. So I've tried to avoid situations like that again. But still it varies. You're probably going to at least spend at least like $500 on a cover, like minimum. I have had a cover that cost like $200, which was great. And like with Deranged Doctor, it kind of depends on what style of cover you commission from them, because they do a few different things. I chose like a symbol cover as opposed to something with like humans or anything on it. And if you do commission like a full series at the same time, as opposed to like one book at a time over several years, which I did. I had written the whole series and then started to like work on publishing it. So I knew like what all the titles were. I knew what I wanted to be on all the covers. I generally knew how long they all were. So I was able to commission them all at once, and they do a discount for you if you do that.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So like the cost of the entire Houndstooth trilogy covers was like less than the Wondrous cover.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like that was a great deal. Yeah, so I think you can expect probably for like a really good illustrator, probably like at least like 500. But it can get up there to like 900 or 1,000, just kind of depending on who you're going with, how in demand they are. And then I know like getting like design work done can be another like $500 even. But Deranged Doctor actually, one of the reasons, besides enjoying working with them before, one of the reasons I went with them for the design stuff for On Lavender Tides is that what was it exactly? It's for like taking an illustration and just doing the design was like $100 or something. And I think it's like an extra 70 or something if you do paperback and not just ebook. So it's like $100 for the first book, and then if it's a series, they only charge you like $50 for each subsequent book, plus whatever the paperback fee is. I don't remember exactly. So I mean, given some of the other rates I'd seen for design work, that was like far and away the best price out there, and they do really good work. So yes, that's another thing to consider with price if you're trying to do like an illustrator and then also like someone else doing the design. But sometimes an illustrator will do all that stuff for you also. But yeah, the cost can add up for sure.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good information to have, because I feel like a lot of people don't, because the cover is so often saved for the end. I feel like it can kind of be like a shock when you finally get there and you're just about ready to publish, and then all of a sudden you're slammed with this new purchase you have to make. So it's good to have that information up front for sure.
Yeah, and like good design is just as important as like a good illustration, because if you have like the most beautiful piece of artwork and then some like ugly plain like lettering on the front, that can like tank the whole thing and give you that unprofessional look that you're trying to avoid, even if you have like the most glorious piece of like original commissioned art that you've ever seen.
Yeah, I feel like with covers, it's that, you know, someone could build the most amazing machine ever, and then if they just spray paint it, at the end you'll never know, because it's like you spend all of this time creating something wonderful, and then you're willing to just settle at the end. It's kind of like how you choose to present all of this hard work you've done, and
and
it doesn't reflect what the story is in reality, but it's the only way people know to start, basically.
Yeah, like the work will speak for itself in the end, but like you've got to get people through the door first to even give it a shot.
That's a great way to put it. All right, so let's jump back to our drink again, if you are willing.
Yes, I'm almost out.
I know, I'm getting down there too. So if you are willing, would you do a little world building for us? So thinking about whether it's for you or a character from your stories or a brand new character, could you set the scene for the perfect place to enjoy a bubble tea?
All right. Look, I've already got it. This is easy.
Okay.
This is easy. Because I did this last summer. And it also, let me tell you, ties right in to my new book. So it's perfect. Because my new book, the setting is inspired by the Hawaii Islands. And last summer, I took a trip to Hawaii. It was much delayed. We were literally, I want to say 5 days from flying out on our vacation when like everything shut down because of COVID. So that was excellent. That was an excellent start to the lockdown. So we finally got to go on the trip last summer after we got vaccinated and everything. And everything was good. Well, not good, but better.
Yeah.
So the perfect setting is to go grab you one of these bubble teas, whatever flavor you like. I like the taro, as we all know. and then get yourself in Hawaii, somewhere in Hawaii, and just walk down the sidewalk, do a little window shopping, grab yourself maybe like some musubi or something, walk along the beach. The sand is so soft over there, and just look out at the waves, listen to the waves as you suck up your little tea.
Perfect. That sounds really nice. All right, so what are some tips, tricks, or advice that you would give authors who are just starting out on their hunt for getting a cover artist?
I think the best piece of advice is something I kind of already touched on, is that like the cover is extremely important because it's the first thing anybody sees about your book. So you do need to invest your money in it, but do not be like me and invest too much money in it because some people do get lucky and their first book they put out is popular, gets a lot of readers, and you will make your money back off of it. But it's not the easiest thing in the world, and you don't want to be like me, putting over $1,000 into some book that you're never going to make the money back off of it. So I mean, definitely like save up and know that you're going to need to invest a good amount of money into this part of the process, but don't I don't know how to word it. Just don't like go too overboard with it. Like if something does seem really like out of your price range, like just take a step back from it. It may be tempting because the artist is so good, but at the end of the day, it is like a business decision that you have to make. And you got to make smart decisions.
Absolutely. Okay, so paralleling that, other than your steep price tag on the first book, are there any mistakes or pitfalls or just general things that you would like to warn authors about before they start the process?
I don't know about any like pitfalls per se. I would just say maybe kind of like pay attention to the details. Maybe like have a clear vision in mind when you're starting out, so that there can be like some I mean, a lot of people write series, and so what I'm thinking mainly is like, so there's like consistency among your series, because I know I personally, and I've seen it reflected a lot in people online, is that like we really like a series to like match and like look good together. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So just like, I don't know, like really think about like what your vision for this thing is so you can execute it to the best of your ability, and so that there's like a consistent style and tone across the books.
Okay. Let's talk just pure covers now. What are some of your personal favorite book covers from other authors, and why do you think they worked so well?
Okay, let me see. I've got a few of these pulled up.
Oh, nice.
Let me see. Is there like a chat thing in here? Yeah. So I'll send you the links to them also. Okay. The first one is Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke by Eric LaRocca, or LaRocca. I'm not entirely sure. So I sent the link over. It's a horror novella that came out last year. It's like an epistolary novel about these two women in an online chat room. It's really nasty. It's really messed up. It's good stuff. And it's also nostalgic in a way, if you were on AOL Instant Messenger a lot. But like, as you can see on this cover, like, I don't know. It's like so gross. Like, there's like a lot of like texture to it. And I will say for anyone listening, I am talking about specifically, there's like a new edition of this coming out. later this year. It got picked up by a bigger publisher. But I'm talking about the original novella release. It's got like a blue background. But yeah, I don't know. It's like it's such a striking illustration that like very perfectly like tells you what the tone of this story is going to be. Like it's about a young woman, and obviously something awful is happening to her. But even beyond that, like I said, just like it has like so much texture and like character to it that is just like, I don't know. It's very unsettling, and it's very unlike any other like book cover that I've seen.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love the technique of the, like I've seen that kind of destroyed art cover before, but the color choice and the texture and just the way that it's executed is really cool.
Yeah, it's like her face is like smeared across almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that cover. Another one that I thought of when you asked me this was The Combat Codes by Alexander Darwin, which you might be familiar with. I don't know. This one actually, he had like a much simpler cover for this before, and then it kind of like the whole series got a redesign with this new art style. And I don't know, I think it so perfectly evokes the like style of the series, which is like kind of like action thrillers almost. They're like science fantasy, sort of like almost teetering on like sci-fi. And it's like all the covers of the series are kind of like, they look like movie posters almost, with like the floating heads and like the different elements fading into each other and stuff, and the like very dynamic text. But I don't know, I think it looks so cool, and it like fits with that like, it like the books feel like blockbuster movies almost, and that's like what this cover is, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's dope. And
the art style is really great. The color choice is really great.
Yeah, and I've seen like photos people have posted of like the paperbacks all lined up together. And man, the spines on these things are so slick. I love a good spine.
Yeah,
and these ones have great ones. Oh, shit, I just lost the link. Sorry if I'm not allowed to swear on this. Also.
Oh no, it's all right.
Good. Well, shit then. This is the last one I was thinking of, and it's the Traitor Baru Cormorant by Seth Dickinson. This one is another where it's like, it's not really indicative of anything that like specifically happens in the book. It's not like a scene from the book or anything, but it like so perfectly encapsulates like the tone of the story. Like you can tell just from like the like color palette and like the imagery and even the typography that this is like, it's not really like an epic fantasy, like pulp fantasy sort of thing. It's a much more of like a mature tone to it, I guess.
For sure.
And like a melancholy kind of tone, which is also kind of indicative of the title. But I don't know, there's something so like compelling and like intriguing with like just this like very like passive woman's face that's like being shattered, but she's just like emotionless.
Yeah,
I think it's very
porcelain.
Yeah, it's like it's such an interesting image that like when I saw it just made me want to know like what is going on in this book.
Well, and that's it right there, right? That's the key.
Exactly.
You want to make people feel exactly that.
Yeah. Anyway, those are the three that immediately came to mind when you posited this question.
Perfect. All right, Travis, it is last call here at the Indie Pub. Can you give us an indie published book or two or three or more that you want more people to check out?
Sorry, I'm trying not to loudly slurp the bottom of this thing.
Just adding a little audio texture. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got a few. The first two is kind of like a joint recommendation because they're two like indie series that I feel like probably a lot of your listeners have like heard of, but I just want to give people the push to actually check them out. One is the Wildfire Cycle by D.P. Woolliscroft. The first book being Kingsold. Basically, the first book is about, like, what if the king and queen died and we decided to have a democracy instead, now that they're gone. And I think the whole series fits a really great. It does a nice balance of, like, being like this grand epic fantasy sort of story, while also still being like very character driven and like a lot of like lighthearted moments in between the like big dramatic reveals and stuff. And it was originally published in a slightly more confusing way. There's like main books and then like short story collections in between that like are actually vital to the story, but maybe doesn't seem like it because it's not called like book 2 and stuff. So I think that kind of threw people off. But he did just recently relaunch them with really fantastic new covers fitting the topic of the episode. But he also like combined them into more concise volumes. So now if you just buy like volume 1, 2, and 3, like you're good to go. You have everything in there that you need. Nice. And there is one more book coming out. And it's really good. It's one of my favorite series, self-published or otherwise. I think it's really great. And the other is The Raincatcher's Ballad by Stephen McKinnon. The first book being Symphony of the Wind, which was an SPFBO finalist a few years ago. But I mean, I think the whole series has like lived up to the promise of that first book. They're really like fun, bombastic, again, like blockbuster type of books. Like they have tons of like really crazy like action set pieces in all of them. They really are like the closest to like watching a movie that I've gotten to. Another one is a pretty new book. It's a progression fantasy called The Enchanter by Tobias Begley. It's about it's kind of a typical setup of like a kid going to like a magical academy and learning magic. But I think his characters are really good, and there's also like a specific focus, if you couldn't guess based on the name, of him like enchanting like items and like imbuing items with magic, and like that's kind of like how he progresses his abilities and like how he approaches combat and stuff like that. So I thought that was like a really interesting kind of unique focus that you don't really get a lot of in books, focusing more on like how to enchant an item and like what advantages that can give you, as opposed to just like slashing someone up or like throwing a fireball at them or something.
For sure.
And then the last one, just really quick, is pretty much any graphic novel by Dahm. He's got like Rice Boy, Island Book, Vatu, Order of Tales. I just think all of his work is really fantastic and interesting and weird and unique. And I don't know, his approach to like world building and stuff has been a big influence on my recent stuff. And I just think a lot of more people should be aware of him and check him out.
Nice. Okay, same question, but for any other media, indie or not.
Okay, I'll try to keep this fast also, because I know we're at the hour mark. The first one will just be another book. It's called Manhunt by Gretchen Felker-Martin. It's like a post-apocalyptic horror thriller book. It's a standalone book. It just came out like in February, I think. Probably my favorite book I read this year so far. It is one of, I will say, for people who are maybe, it's not for the faint-hearted. It's probably one of the most like gory and also like sexual books I've ever read. It's intense in a lot of ways, and it's a really like grim kind of bleak book, but also has like a ton of genuinely like funny, like dark humor to it. It's about the apocalypse that we're post is that there's been some plague that has turned every man into like a feral monster, basically. It's like transformed them. And now they're just like mindless monsters roaming the country. And so the book follows these two trans women who are just trying to survive the feral men and also gangs of turfs who are trying to like hunt them down. And it's just about trying to survive in this very horrific landscape and hunting down the feral men's testicles so that they can extract the estrogen from them. It's very cool. It's very unique. And it's fun and exciting and crazy. A TV show I'll go with is Severance. Have you watched any of Severance on Apple TV?
No, but it seems to be blowing up right now.
It's like, I don't even know what to say about it. It's like, it's really wild. It's about people at a company who have had a surgical procedure so that their work lives and their personal lives are completely separated. So like part of their consciousness only exists when they're at work, and they cannot remember anything about like their past life or anything. And then when they go back up the elevator to clock out for the day, they have no awareness of anything that has happened at work.
Crazy. Wow. So
it's a very interesting premise, and obviously I'm not going to spoil anything, but the directions that it goes are, it's such a bizarre thing, like the office culture and like what these people are doing for their jobs. It's all so weird that like, I don't know, even if I wanted to explain it, it would not do it justice. It's a very bizarre, fascinating, exciting, kind of creepy show. And it has like the best opening credits of like anything that I've seen in a long time. It's such a weird little sequence.
Nice. So like TV show cover.
Yeah, exactly, actually. And the last thing, a movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, which everyone is also talking about now. About this woman just trying to get her taxes done, really, and gets drawn into this big like multiverse, life-ending conflict. The multiverse is so hot right now.
Yeah.
And this is maybe the best version of it. It's like, it's so weird and bizarre. It's like, it's hilarious, but it's also like really gut wrenching. Like you're going to sob through it, but you're also going to be laughing hysterically. And it's like so creatively done, both like narratively, but also like just from like a filmmaking level, like the kind of stuff that they pull off with it. I don't know. The whole experience is like, it's a really wild ride, and it's probably the best movie I've seen this year, and I don't really know what would top it.
Nice. All right, Travis, well, tell our listeners what you have going on and where they can find you and your work.
All right. What I have going on is a new book series, the Jekyll series, book 1 being On Lavender Tides. It's a Pokemon-inspired progression fantasy series. It's my version of Pokemon, got summoners, finding monsters and battling them, and as I said, crossing a Hawaii-inspired archipelago on a pilgrimage. Book 1 is out right now. Book 2 will be out in a few months. I've also just wrapped up the Houndstooth series earlier this year. Book 1 of that is Flesh Eater. That's about, I don't even know, that's about so many things. It's about this fox just trying to get back to his freaking normal life and not have to deal with a bunch of nonsense anymore, I guess, is the simplest way to put it. So yeah, you can find those on Amazon. You can check out more info about them on my website, travismriddle.com. M is in movie, I guess. That's about it. Check those out. I think they're good, and you might think they're good also. And even if you don't think they're good, check them out anyway, because then I win either way. I don't know.
Thanks everyone for tuning in to the Indie Pub. If you like what you hear, consider giving us a like and subscribe so you won't miss any of our indie investigations or boozy banter. I've been your host, Jay Rushing, and we'll see you back in the pub next time.